Okay. So let me start off by apologizing for Nikki. She should have done better, but I'm here and we're going to make it work. We're a team. So when she messes up, I mess up. Oh, there's that.
Hello, ladies. You guys have been tickling me with y'all's rendition of Africa.
Joan, this story. First off, before we even go anywhere, what is the 1985? Why did you pick that year besides me being born?
Well, I picked that year because it was when I was a teenager, just getting into my 20s. And I had maybe a couple of more years before I turned 20. So I was about 17, 18, 19 during this time through 1987. And it was a young time in my life. And so it was fun.
Okay. This story was fun. Okay. Special. You are a fucking fool, man. For real, how does your mind do this? Okay, Miss Joe, everyone tried to say that I called you a sociopath, but what I had said was that you are very methodical with your writing. And I stand by that because the way the story planned out, it was like every single detail you took 2 years to plan out. The way the truth with Mike came out, like, everything was, nothing was wasted energy. No word was not there for a reason.
Y'all are sweet.
Perfection. Take us through it. How did you do this? You set the mood for us. How did you get in the mindset of writing this book?
So, quite honestly, this book is 8 years old.
I can believe it took 8 years to come together.
Well, because I wrote the book 8 years ago and just left it on my computer, never did anything with it. And Alex House and my oldest daughter, I was riding in the car with my daughter and Alex was on speakerphone. And I was telling Alex, I need to get another book out. And I'm trying to get some ideas. And my daughter said to Alex, listen, she's got 2 books on her computer and one is just named Tracy because she hasn't figured out what to do with the title. And Alex said, oh, how many words did you just started? I said, no, it's about 96,000 words. And so Alex was like, are you serious? And so I said, yeah. So I said, I got to revamp it and I don't, feel like dealing with that. And she was like, oh, no, yes, you do. So I had this project that I was going to be working on, which is the book called Sedition. I just finished it and I'm waiting for my turn in editing. And but before I, got deep into Sedition, I told Alex, well, I have some things on the back burner. I'll just go ahead and dismantle this book and put it back together again and basically do a bigger edit, because when I wrote the book 8 years ago, there's a lot of techniques that I didn't know then that I know now.
Right.
And so in writing the book, again, I had to dismantle the book and then put it back together. And it took me about 4 months, which wasn't bad. And then I think I really started working on it like in September of 2021. And then I released it like in May of 2022, and then Jacoby and Wesley decided to read, and Jacoby actually read in July, and Wesley actually read in November.
How funny. It's perfect as it is. They didn't sit in the same room and do it together.
No, they didn't. He did it like maybe 4 months, 5 months before her.
Wow. Was it your idea to do it as a duet?
Yes, I do duets because and don't get me wrong, I read books, where it's one the other. But what happens is I I so enjoy Jacoby's voice that I like for his voice to do all the men voices so that we could experience him to the most.
Right.
And so I really do the duet to because I write from a man's point of view. And oftentimes what the woman witnesses about the man. And because of the kind of voice he has, especially in unfortunately Francine, there were a lot of things that Troy said that I really wanted to come from Jacoby. And so I pay a little extra, maybe a lot extra, to break it down that way so that we get to showcase just him. Although in the Black series, he did a fabulous job doing male and female voices.
Second to none.
Right. And Wesley, and a lot of the female narrators have great male voices. Wesley has one. Nicole Small has a great male voice, and so does Denverlay. So it was really about me just kind of being able to to let his voice really shine. And then of course I picked up Wesley, who is a star in her own right, and the two of them together did a fabulous job. They really did.
It was
His
magic.
stuttering is bar none, but her being the grandmother, I was like, listen, she done told Tracy ass off. I was sitting around with, my daughter said that Wesley was the star of this one, and I couldn't say nothing. She did a fabulous job.
Yes, she did. Speaking of the stutter,
One more question about that. I'm sorry. So it does cost more to duet. It is not the way that you write it that it becomes a duet. It's just that you have to pay. Because I always wonder how come more people don't do that.
So I would imagine that even a book that's written like from a point of view, one chapter him, one chapter her, you can still have him do all the male lines, and she do all the female lines. I write kind of in third person, so I don't do chapter to chapter. I'm liable to change who's talking within the chapter, and that's where I do the scene breaks and things. But I imagine that you can do it that way. I prefer it that way because um, a lot of what the man does is from, in my books, is from the female's perspective. And so I would like for you to hear him say it. And I really did not want to take away from Troy. And I'm going to tell you, when I did unfortunately Francine, I was blown away by Nicole Small. I mean, there was scenes in the book where she was more than one woman in a scene, and I could not tell it was the same person. And so I think it enhances the reader's experience, and it does cost more. Yeah, it does cost more.
It really does.
And it was a wonderful it's a wonderful experience for me. I do write books where Jacoby takes over the whole book, like in the Black series, and even then you couldn't tell because this dude has a million voices. And so it was just wonderful. And so that's where we are. So when I asked Wesley, I had my fingers crossed because she's such a superstar. She's such a sweet person, and I even just enjoy talking to her. She's just brilliant. And she came to this book and she gave it all. I mean, it is just she did a fabulous job.
Yeah, Wesley doesn't play. Can I commend you? Because even with his stutter, Tracy didn't lose book bay material. He wasn't as intense. He was like, he lacked nothing, even with the stutter. And I'm like, how did you do that?
That nigga with a stutter be so sexy, so commanding.
And like, can I commend you? Because when you think stutter, people, has such like a negative connotation. You know what I mean? Like, you don't think book bay or like, oh, I want him. He has a stutter. How did you do that?
Well, I think the key. Well, and I think the key to any real romance is that while the hero is sexy and all of these things, he's flawed. This is where you get the vulnerableness from him. And
Right.
and I'm gonna tell you the scene where he's trying to explain to Africa that Dr. Fine wants her, and he's that Jacoby is a hot mess. I was like,
Yes.
this dude is stuttering for real. He could not get it out. I was sitting there. I said, huh? I couldn't, so but the whole point to it is to show you, because when we're young, we, especially young women, we think that only we have the things that bother
Right.
us. But as
Right.
you get older, you realize that men have these things too. They just don't say it. And so this
Right.
was his issue, that couldn't he couldn't really communicate verbally. And this is why Earl ended up with the woman that he loved.
Right.
Tell her. Tell her.
Did you always know you're gonna kill poor Earl in the first 2 minutes?
Yes. Yes. Even in the first draft.
You don't care to kill. You
You don't. You don't. I'm like glad it wasn't as emotional as when you killed Otis. That still hurts me, Miss Joan. It still hurts. But like I was just like, dang, can't nobody touch Miss Joan with a prologue.
She will kill. That's the thing. Do not fall in love with somebody in the prologue.
No,
you're gonna lose that.
They might not make it to the end of the book.
And you didn't have to do it so bloody for Africa. She was like, "Cool, Trace. Hey."
Right. Well, you know what happens? Y'all got in the prologue and y'all said this couple is going to try to work it out and we're going to go through the witchcraft. And I said, nah, they don't be better than that. I'm going to have to off him at the store.
I was like, oh my gosh, wait, he just gonna be paralyzed. No, you took that man's life.
Yeah, that was my one prediction that I knew for a fact was gonna come true, that the prologue was gonna have you shook. I have never read anything by you in the prologue that had me be like, this is about to be some ish.
Shit's about to get basic.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
So thankful. I never thought I would be thankful for somebody getting killed. I'm so glad that you killed him, because I would have never wanted Tracy to have to, and them to be sneaking around or doing anything that way.
Right.
So I love how you did that. It was still respectful. You still let them be a family. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Because a lot of times they always be sneaky linking. And I like that you didn't do that.
It was a rough endeavor, because what happens is when you get into the book, it's intense the whole way through the funeral, him talking. And so you're wondering what's going to happen, but he doesn't lose intensity. It gets bigger than him. That's how he ended up on Rikers Island.
Yeah.
You hurt me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you realize you didn't have to do that to my man. Okay. I say she will send somebody to jail so quick. No, I don't care.
But I love that every character seemed to have like a journey to go through and growth. Yes. It wasn't just like the main characters. Like, you don't think that you're gonna like Miss Ivory and Miss Joan by the end of the story, and like they become your favorite characters. You don't think Darlene is gonna turn around and boom, it was just so instantaneous. She turned around. Like all the characters, it was such character driven that they all had like rich stories within the story.
This was a Netflix original.
Yeah.
It was literally as if, how when you're watching a Netflix, how it transitions to the next person.
Right.
To the next, like it was seamless. For you to even be like, it was just sitting on my laptop. How dare you? How dare you?
Like that is so crazy.
I wrote this book between Elbert and Black.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself. What else you got just sitting on the laptop that you can relate?
I do have another novel called Fair Exchange. It's sitting on my laptop, and it's been sitting on my laptop since 2007.
This is your message to revisit that, Miss Joan. This is your message. This is it. Because this story was so impactful. Like, I truly felt like I was just sitting on the couch experiencing it with them.
Like the smells, down to the sounds. Like, I mean, the traffic. I'm thinking like, damn, they not gonna ever make it. Why? I mean, you were so on.
So, like everything, just being in there like Tracy, when you gonna move this bed to the bedroom?
Joan got a lot of nerve. She ran here
Right,
cock
she was like,
blocking.
your grandma about to see in your bed in the living room.
Then.
Everything was so perfect. Like, I truly felt like I was back east visiting family. The vibes, the energy, every single thing was just a living, breathing experience.
Down to the soaps. When you brought in
Yes.
the soaps, I was like, not Dixie. You were so on.
And something I really love, like when you say part two, I, again, about to get basic, it truly felt like a whole new story, because it was so nice to see like Africa coming out of her shell and getting
Right.
the job, and like Dr. Fine, you know, just a little bit, just all those little moving pieces to see like now we're really about to get it, because Africa from the beginning couldn't have handled that situation with
Right.
Lorraine. She
Right.
couldn't have, like, it would have broke her. So to
Right.
get this flow and it to be so realistic,
Right.
perfection.
And you know,
Perfection.
interestingly, you're going along and you don't know why Mike is being an ass.
Mm-hmm.
And you really thinking like you've been wanting Africa that
You
bad.
did that.
And I kept thinking, why does he hate Tracy so much? I'll be damned. Tracy got it first.
Right. And like he told Tracy, he said, you think everything is about Africa, but it's
Mhm.
Lorraine you shouldn't have slept with. And when he
Yes.
said, I don't know which is worse, that she doesn't want the baby to be mine, or that she wants it to be yours. So this
When
is a hurtful moment. Yeah.
Mhm.
It hurt me. And I love that you let Tracy be human and think like,
Yes.
damn.
That was so brilliant to go back through that memory lane with him, like Lorraine was there. Lorraine was there.
Somebody was calling
Right.
Lorraine.
And we didn't even turn around. Like, it was just like, and it was so cool because you hinted, there was no hint. Like, obviously Mike didn't mess with him, but there was no hinting, I felt like. So then when like it all was there, it was like 2020. I do remember Lorraine being there.
And the key to it
Perfection.
was is that Mike was not as mature as Tracy. Tracy
Mhm.
walked off because he realized that it wasn't Earl's fault that he was able to articulate it. He wasn't. So he walked off and
Right.
started a separate life. Mike was unable to do that. So he just kept coming nastier because he
Mhm.
originally was just jealous that that Tracy and Earl were being raised as brothers. This is a
Mhm.
cousin thing, but it escalated because of Lorraine. And it
Right.
turned into something totally different, right? And the reason why Tracy went back and forth, because people ask, why would he, if he's with Africa, why would he go back and forth to the doctor? Well, he with Lorraine. Well, he did because in the beginning he felt like, okay, this is my responsibility. But when
Mhm.
he figured out that the other person was Mike, he couldn't back out or miss because Africa had already been abused because Mike was angry with
Mhm.
Tracy. So he didn't want to leave Lorraine to have to deal with Mike on his own. And Lorraine never told anyone that Tracy was the first person she had sex with.
Mhm. Right.
He just left it to be their business.
Mhm.
Yes.
It was so, like, I
But
felt like
Mike
that
knew
was
it.
so perfect.
Yeah.
Right. I
And
thought
I
that was so perfect.
usually in a book, you don't want to see the protagonist sleep with someone else. But I
Right.
felt that it was necessary for you to see what happened between him and Lorraine.
He bust Lorraine down.
Okay, she did. But he did. And he did. No, I agree, Miss Jo. I don't like it. But in that moment, you needed the full experience. Because you just think like she a wild girl. It could be anybody, baby. She's just picking, like, you
But
needed
Tracy
it.
knew he
Yes.
knew. And I love the way you did it so respectfully, like him being in the back room, like, this is it. Like,
Mhm.
I did this. And then when it came back to it, and I was like, dang, Tracy, like that. You like that?
He
Okay.
listen, he busted everybody down, not Africa, not just
Yes.
Africa. He busted
Literally.
everybody down. Yeah.
And Africa couldn't even take it, but Lorraine.
Right. Lorraine was a champ, right? And she hadn't even been with nobody. Shoot,
It
poor
hadn't
thing.
even been there. So it
And
really
it
makes you
hadn't been
think.
with nobody.
Mhm.
And the thing is, he knew Mike knew it. He knew that Mike knew.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, you really had, I mean, I've never read anything like this story.
But I feel like I always say that anytime I read anything from you,
Your mind
It's
is just crazy.
it's methodical.
What
I don't know what else to say.
Is you write from a real person's point of view. Like, how many of us have cousins that daddy got separate kids?
Right.
How many of us, like,
Right.
They your cousins.
but they're still our cousins? You wrote it as a real thing. I feel like a lot of times people try to write the Black experience as if it's so wonderful, you know, like we're
Right.
all perfect. Like you
Like
literally
there's not
like,
real stuff in the story.
so, and it just makes it become like, damn, oh, that's like my cousin Joe. Like it really makes you
Yes.
engross into the story. It's so real.
Well, I try to write books where the conditions are real, even if the story is fictional, right?
Right.
And I think you girls posed a great question, but only one other group asked me this. Why would Africa's sisters be named Sue, Jane, and Mary, basically, and her name be Africa? But
That's the problem.
but it's implied that they all have a different father too.
Okay.
That's what that implies. And
Yeah.
so the kid, the sisters are on welfare because none of them work. I don't have to say that. They are.
Right.
Yeah,
The
we just
mothers
knew
are
that.
drunk. Right.
It is
The mothers
known.
are drunk. And they're all living in her house and they're using the welfare checks that they get to keep that house afloat, right? And Joan is living there, right? And so they all have these names that are plain, and then you could tell that Joan actually met somebody that was Afrocentric, so that's how Africa got the name. But this is, if you ask that question somewhere in your mind, you thought this.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
They were
supposed
giving.
to imply without saying that Joan had different baby daddies.
Yes.
I think
That's something that I feel like you're very good stating something without stating it, if that makes
it
sense.
makes you have to think
Yeah.
about it. You really have to sit back and be like, Joan did look like she had several baby daddies. None of them sisters looked alike.
Right.
Heifers didn't even look alike, you know?
Right. There's the other thing. And so, so that's something to think about. Yes. And then Tracy ends up on Rikers Island. And I think that was important for several things because one, Raheem represented what the heartbreak that Black women experience dealing with Black men. The ones where they can't get their lives together because the system is already stacked against them. And then between that and poor choices that are never forgiven, there he is going back and forth and making these promises. And so Raheem represented Black men who actually get that they are breaking the hearts of the Black women around them.
That was such a
Do
powerful
you know
moment.
how bomb that was? All I could think was when they were inside that dining hall and when Levi put up the new nigga, I was like, damn,
Right.
experiencing it. And we all have cousins that's been in and out, brothers, like uncles. You were so spot on with that. And I don't think that a lot of times they realize how much they hurt you.
Well, what I love about
not
that
only that, Rikers Island is, if you go back into the 1850s, Riker was an actual slave catcher who caught Black people, Black men and Black women, and sold them back, or freed Black men and women and sold them back off into slavery. So it is not by chance that Rikers Island, which was acquired by New York City in the end of the 1800s for $176,000, and then they turn it into this prison, call it Riker, after the slave catcher, where predominantly people of color reside. So this was a moment to make that statement. So if you thought Tracy was going to go to jail and spend 2 weeks and then get out, it was important for you to see that, one, Rikers Island is overcrowded. It's actually worse off than it's been. This is the jail that Khalil Browder spent 3 years over a book bag that he did not take. And ultimately, you pulled a Tracy in and you didn't even have a bed. So all of these prisoners are just sleeping in the receiving room on the floor. So they're living like animals over misdemeanors and other shit, right? Rikers Island really is a big deal. And I myself, and I remember in the years, this is why it was 1985. I remember in the years of living in Queens, and Rikers Island sits between the Bronx and Queens, right? And I had a boyfriend that was in jail. He's passed away now. And I went to the jail to see him. If my mother knew that, she would have killed me, right? I go down to the jail to see him. I'm probably 17 going on 18. Another woman, because I'm thinking because he's in jail, he needs me. Another woman shows up. She wants to fight for the visit. And then on the way going over to the island, where there's nothing but Black women on the bus, because that's predominantly where young Black men were in the 80s, because this is during the new Jim Crow, right? And then they get us on the bus, drive us out in the middle of nowhere on the island, pull us all off the bus, and let the dogs sniff us to make sure that we don't have drugs. So essentially, you are now a criminal or being treated as one just to go see what you consider to be your significant other. And so these were real live scenes. And it was interesting because when Jacoby read that scene, he sent me a message and said, that scene is real. And it is. It is. And when you get to the door and you're between the vestibule, and this is back in 1985, 1986, the man comes out, the correction officer comes out and tells you, if you step beyond this thing with a knife or a drug substance, we will detain you right here. So here's your last chance to throw. So the whole experience with the dogs, everything was an actual experience from my youth. And looking back on it, you see the violation. You actually see all of the Black women who are coming with babies and all kind of shit. And then you have to also look at when you have family members that are in jail, you have some people that if you go around there and speak with them about their young life, every other Sunday after church, grandma is taking you on the Greyhound so you can go upstate to see so-and-so who's been locked up for 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So this was indicative. So the scene where Tracy is saying, don't come back here, and he's got nasty, he's essentially saying, I'm not trying to be comfortable with being locked up. So I don't want you to be comfortable with visiting me.
It was definitely a powerful scene. It felt, to know now that you actually experienced it, makes it like, that's how she knew I mean, because I felt the fear. I felt the other girl being like, oh, not up in here, sweetie. And him saying, all right, none of y'all motherfuckers gonna see him today. Bye, bitch.
Right.
And you traveled all that way with your baby.
Right, that's the correction officer coming out and two welfare chicks fighting over the same dude. And I'm telling you, it happened to me. Lucky for me, that experience fixed my ass, because I was like, I won't be going back again. But even still, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, these guys are knuckleheads. But then you get older and you read a book like The New Jim Crow. And you realize that the young Black men in your neighborhood are targeted. You know what I'm saying? And so even now, when I wrote Unfortunately Francine, at that point, while that number is different and less, more young men are in college than in jail, the number for Black men who are locked up is 800,000. And that was in 2019. And so all of these things make up a situation. And so I looked at going to high school in Manhattan, hanging out in Harlem, living in Queens, having family in Brooklyn. And so I was hoping that you could hear the traffic, that you could see the situation. You know what I'm saying? And I got people who left me, inboxes where he was abusive. I had to laugh, because these people are 26 years old. They're young and they're making 26-year-old decisions, right? And I had to laugh because one person said Tracy was a bully, and I'm saying, I don't get it. The Africa is sitting in the funeral home. Earl is stretched out in the coffin, and she's asking his cousin to take her to get an abortion. But you can only see it from Trey. So I attempted to make him intense, but again, he paid the price for his intensity.
Right.
And really, she paid the price for not participating in her life. And so people said, well, he never gave her a chance to grieve about Earl. Her guilt was that she didn't love him like that. She loved him, but she wasn't in love with him. So what are you giving her time to grieve what? She didn't want to be with Earl. And the truth is her laziness is and her inability to want to do something for herself kept her there. And so, but when readers read, they sometimes focus, and I attempt to not put together a big dumb puppy with, and make him the male hero. There's some intensity, and sometimes it ain't shit to smile about. And that, and that's where Tracy was, trying to figure out his life.
And I love that, because I also felt like Tracy was trying to help her become her own woman. Like, he didn't want her to work because he wanted to take care of her, but he still wanted her to be able to get up and get some go about herself.
Yeah.
And she was lacking that. But then then you meet her family and you're like, oh, okay. And she's still doing better than them.
Which so is not which really doesn't say much, because they ain't doing shit. And then Tracy experienced, I want you to get up and get some go. And then when she gets up and gets some go, now he's mad. And so Raheem is like, dude, can you be happy?
Yes. Well, one of the things I love was when Raheem was like, and when Tracy was like, I would never hurt her. And he was like, you would never put your hands on her, but she's hurting. Like, the clicking of it making sense. I don't see Tracy as a bully. I think he was intense, and I think he did push her to be present in her life. Like, that was the journey that Africa had to go on. And what I love was, even though she was sad, she didn't allow herself moving forward to be a participant in life anymore. She was going to live her life. She was going to be the main character, and she wasn't going to let Tracy, as much as she loves him, push her back into a position that she was like, I deserve better.
I like that Tracy was like, nah, baby, you ain't finna be over your mom in them house hoeing out like these sisters. No. She's trying to find herself.
Your sisters do. Yes. But the other piece to piggyback off Nikki, the real piece is that she made the adjustment because in this relationship, she wanted it. And so she was willing to do the things but with Earl, she just kind of lingered in and out. And so there was and when people said, well, why didn't she wait a year? Well, the whole purpose of the little girl downstairs being deathly sick is that if she dies at 6, middle age is 3. Middle age doesn't have to be 50.
Right. So true.
That is.
Wow.
It is. So it doesn't have. So when you're expecting them to wait, keep in mind they were just going to the store and he ended up dead. So Tracy is saying, I gotta do something. So there was a level of desperation based on the way life had played out. And so when Earl is being lowered into the ground, he said, I never thought in a million years that it would play out like this.
No, I mean, dang. There's so many things that you think you saw or you think you, but then there's so much more to it. Like down to raggedy ass Keith, Kevin, leave me alone. Leave me alone, Kevin.
That was gonna like he was gonna get in them hands.
Right.
What dope is you selling, my nigga? Because you're never on the corner. You forever at my mama house. What are
Right.
you doing?
Right. You don't even have a hustle. And so let me tell you about Raheem. So when I was growing up in Queens, my mother moved to this neighborhood to which she still lives there, right? Even now. And I'm gonna be 55, right? So my mother moved to this neighborhood and I'm like 10, 11, 12, and we outside jumping double dutch, having a good time, playing, and just kind of doing what kids do in the inner city, playing skelly, riding bikes, just all that kind of life. There used to be a man who lived on the corner. Looking back now that I'm 55 in May, I realized I realized that he couldn't have been no more than about 23. But again, I'm 11, right? And it was a guy who lived on the other end of the corner, and his name was Raheem. And poor Raheem didn't know that when I grew up, I intended to marry him. So that's where the character, and poor Raheem, he never noticed me. But if he was walking by, I would sit down on the front porch and just stare at him and watch him roll by. And he was some kind of sexy. And I said to myself, when I get, because I'm 11, so I think he's still gonna be this age, right? Right? He's probably damn 70 now. But but anyway, I was gonna marry him when I got to be a teenager or grown up. And right when I turned 13, he moved away from the neighborhood. Girl, I was sick to my stomach. I never saw Raheem again, but that's who this Raheem is.
Raheem's the man too. Raheem, one of my favorite part was I even like Malcolm was my favorite. And he ain't even my grandson.
And he showed up to that house and thought that Monique was with somebody else, right? Trying to he outside being stank. So with your man ain't gonna let you talk to me? Dude, stop getting locked up.
And his feelings.
Hey, Vito, that was so real at that point. Like, that's how they be. They be so sick. They do you wrong. They be acting crazy. They talk to you.
They don't like you when you do you like they do.
They don't like it. Don't let me do you how you did me.
Yeah.
You can't handle it. He was sick when he was like, she got a baby.
Right.
Man been on that elevator with her. He was going to jail. Like,
listen,
she did, because you never let us see a baby carriage. You never, she was always running in and out. Like, you did that so amazing. I thought she had another man, and I was thinking he was a white man. I was like, you ain't getting it back from no white man, right? You got a good job.
No. But you know what was so funny? Old nosy lady down the hall, how's Malcolm? I said, oh God.
I told you she knew what she was doing. Nigga, that old bitch could look at that man and tell they was related. She knew.
How's Malcolm, her nosy self? But then poor Raheem moved in and nobody was his friend. The baby didn't know him, and the girl was basically stayed to one side of the apartment and wouldn't come out. Shit.
Well, I felt like it was all so realistic. I don't care what no one says. You will take and you will take and you will take till you decide to take no more.
No more.
And Monique was the perfect personification of that.
Yes.
She gave, and Raheem took until she was like, I'm done. Like, and it took her baby, her getting pregnant, to be like, I'm done. My baby deserves better than
I'm not doing this with you.
And I think that it wasn't like they just fell back together. She made him work. He had to prove. She wasn't going to let him play with her son. And I loved that. It was powerful. Like,
he was hurt when she was like, Raheem, please.
Without doing nothing.
She didn't cuss at him, nothing. She just said, Raheem, please leave. Turn away, Raheem. You know what to do.
He didn't know what to do. So my question, because
What does the word plain mean?
was she a nice girl?
Why did they say plain?
Well, in his mind, he saw her as plain and that she wasn't snazzed up like the women that he knew and wasn't trying to wear expensive clothes and all of those things. And she was kind of nerdish, kind of quiet, and kind of in his mind, homely, really. Right?
Okay.
He didn't really think, and when they saw her, they didn't think she was attractive either.
Right. He got mad.
But-
He was gonna have to fight Ken.
Don't talk about baby.
Ken, I'm gonna bust you down.
Yes. Yes. He didn't like
But
that.
in the end, what he really saw is what the hell made me think she wasn't attractive.
Right. Yeah. I love that.
Because I kept thinking, like, is shit ugly? Is that why he didn't mess with her? Because it was a secret situation? But I loved how he was able to sit and realize where he went wrong. And
Right.
what he did.
And getting to see it through Africa, because Africa didn't have to hide her feelings and let him know that this was breaking her. To see that side of what he put Monique through was just so
And his mother,
powerful.
I like how you said the women in my family, like all
Yes.
of them are hurting because of my actions. I mean, you're not a man, but how are you? I feel like you're low key a dude. You just know how to be a man. And you could step into their shoes.
Yeah.
Right. I tried. And the other
It's
pieces
always
that
so believable.
I write for Black women, so I definitely try.
I mean, I think you succeed at it.
Yeah,
I just
every
wanna-
time. Even that little hint of Tracy telling Raheem, like, okay, but don't mess with her if you're not serious. And him like, okay, taking a step back. Like it showed, even no matter what you thought of him, it showed who he was at
As
his
a
core.
person,
Yes, that he was like, okay, I'm gonna take a step back because I'm not ready for that situation. He didn't just play with her because she was a good time. Like so it wasn't so like jarring because you knew who he could be, who he was capable of being if given the
Right.
chance.
And not only that, Tracy was also saying, all the women that live in my house, I'm taking care of all of them. Pat wasn't paying the rent on time. He was not
Right.
only taking care of Africa, he was taking care of Pat and her daughter. This is why Kenny said this
Needed
is
to
not
make
going to
sure
be a
Yeah,
problem.
Yeah,
Let me
we
go
won't
ahead
be
and
late
pay
no more.
you because I'm not living off you, although I
Right.
intend to be with her. Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, I love that. I thought that was so important. Like, especially when you think about going back to the new nigga plan. When you go back to that, they literally talked about how Troy talked about how when these men get out of jail and they have to go and stay with these women, but they can't put them on the lease. It was actually watching it happen through this
Yes.
story.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I mean, it was perfect because Ken got a job, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
But he's
right.
still staying with his mama. Why?
Right.
He didn't have to.
Right. Right.
So it was on. You were so perfection to me. Like, I felt like, I know that they were separate books, but it was almost like a continuation. We went from Black to Troy to Tracy. Like, you made it happen in a way that we got to see the evolution of the Black man. And I just enjoyed it.
Wow, y'all are sweet. Y'all are really sweet.
No,
I enjoyed writing this. And I know when y'all got to the party, y'all said it ain't gonna just be fun. So by the time the party was over, y'all was mad again because Tracy was getting ready to be seen. He got sent to the 103. That's a real precinct.
To do my man like that. I knew it was gonna go down when he said out loud, I'm finna beat this nigga ass. Not a stutter, not a stitch, nothing. I knew it was like, that's your ass. Like,
I literally heard things about to get real bad.
He played pussy and got fucked. I said, God damn it, I'm gonna use it sometime. I don't know when. I promise you, I'm gonna use those words. I don't know how, I don't know when. Can we please talk about Miss Ivory?
There were so many layers to that woman.
Like, can we?
So many facets.
How? What made you like?
Do you know what Miss Ivory?
Because it seemed like she
Yes,
loved
I
him.
do. My great grandmother is Miss Ivory. I've never met her, but I've been told that she was mean. So it was good to try to whatchamacallit. So I named her after my great grandmother, and then just gave her a moment. But I thought it was important because in book 1, he's loving Africa or chasing Africa, right? But in book 2, you begin to see all of the things that you sided with Tracy on were just they were just his perceptions.
Right.
They were not rooted in reality. And we do know that perception is everything. So you automatically don't like Ivory, only to find out that she was the one person that was trying to keep him strong, right?
The whole time, because she had some weak ass grandson.
Right. And then you don't like Mike, only to find out his heart is broken and he's so childish he don't know what the hell to do.
I know. I didn't feel bad for him, but after that car ride when they had that moment, I did feel sad. But I think the whole car got quiet, like, dang, that's fucked up, Trace.
Right. And then Trace had to go over to the house and Mike is all mad and the women are looking crazy and the only one who don't give a shit is Ivory. Right? Everybody else upset.
Thinking like, that's what I'm talking about, grandson. Go ahead, grandson. I mean, you brilliant. I don't think there's any other way to say it. You are magnificent.
Even down to the cop, like, giving Raheem dirty eyes. When Tracy, I'm like, y'all being rough with Tracy.
And I didn't think he was a white man. I love how you did it. I thought it was a white man doing him dirty.
So to find out that it was truly personal and not just because I've seen you too many times, like it was truly personal.
I was hoping to take your ass to jail for life.
Right. No,
you've been playing with my baby.
Right. And told them Monique was with somebody when she wasn't.
She was a white man. I'm telling you right now. Joan about to give us some interracial love.
I can't. So Kelsey visited us this weekend, and we were talking about the Black series and how EJ is one of our favorite characters.
Yes.
And she was like, yeah, I'm principal. I can't like the slave owner. And I'm like, damn, Miss Joan, he wasn't slaver.
Well, and you know what? When I was talking to Jacoby one day, because we were trying to get some schedules together, and we were talking about emancipating James, and I said I didn't want to kill EJ. He said you could have killed both of them. I started laughing. He's tired of them. I said, dude, EJ is a great character, right? He's figuring it out. Yeah. Him and Jeremiah have the biggest redemption arc.
They did. At the end of Elbert's story, you do not think that you are gonna mess with them. You're like, we're gonna get y'all asses in the next book. Like, that's how you feel. So to get in, I'm like, damn, we didn't allow these niggas. And then it's like, dang, why these niggas feeling real human right now?
Well, if you went into it, you're thinking to yourself, I hate Jeremiah. But the truth of the matter is, if you did, if I had written him where it would have been easy to dislike him, it would make the character flat. The whole point is the whole point is to make you feel guilty about liking him.
And you
don't want Black in them to know that you like him.
Right.
Wait a minute, y'all faded out. What happened? I can't hear you. Hold on. Can y'all hear me? I can hear y'all now.
Okay. I was like, you're right, because I was like, he ruined my baby's face.
I didn't want James to know because you know what?
We are secret.
James got an attitude problem.
He does.
He has real light-skinned tendencies. I didn't want him to be mad at me.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. He did have bad attitude.
And that's why
Black told him, don't make me have to straighten you out.
Because he had a bad attitude. Listen, out of every one of those characters, James was the one that was like, the most like worst attitude, but then you kept messing with a man because why he had to go through it and get in the port. And I was like, why she don't like light skin? Because you did
Well, you know what happened in the fort? What happened in the fort was simply because y'all said to yourselves, okay, Black had a problem, Elbert had a problem, James already had a problem, so it got to be someone else. And you shouldn't be trying to figure me out like that. So that's why we had to go back.
I knew you was that petty. I knew you was that petty.
I am petty.
I did. And that's when I fell for Jeremiah, because when he held Miss Anna the way he did, I know we're supposed to be talking about one thing, although I randomly go back and listen to all the stories. I love them so much. I love historical fiction, but you gave us like, that series. You gave us like urban historical fiction. I ain't never read no shit like that before. Okay.
Well, one thing that's always consistent is like these strong Black men. And something that I love is you don't tear down one man to build up the other. Like, everyone is a man, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone has a role to play. They switch and move where they need to be to get the job done. And what I love was it was a smaller group in this one, right? But they still did it. Raheem was like the baddest guy on the block.
Right.
Way from
Tracy he had to get knocked upside the head, right?
Because Tracy was doing too much.
Yes,
but he was doing too much.
Mm-hmm. Dog walk him or nothing. You know, he just gave him a little 1, 2, 3, 4. Sit your ass down. I'm your big cut.
Right. And but he punk self had a moment when he got to get his pity, which I felt like in that moment,
I appreciated Tracy for letting him have that.
In that moment.
He needed that.
And so for both of him and Africa to have a come to Jesus moment, if you will, like, dang, let me look back and see, okay, and then Africa being like, he was going to raise Earl's child,
right?
And this is how it feels, like,
right.
He crushed her,
yes,
and he was willing to do it. So I just love, like, just the characters, man. Oh, it was so rich. Even all the guys being there when Lorraine went into labor, like, it's such a unit. And I feel like you always show, like, no matter how great the man was, Black Hope, no matter how great the man, you need a team.
You have to have
you have to have someone beside you who's gonna help you. Like, it just perfection.
Can we talk about the scene where Ivory and all the women gathered around Africa and were like, you're not the first one this ever happened to.
Right.
Like, because you know how women are so catty, like
absolutely.
She thought she was this and that wasn't that.
Because Raheem was the product of her husband's affair with another woman. This is her husband's grandfather, a grandchild from another woman, right? Raheem's grandmother is the one who thought she was going to take Ivory's husband.
Right.
And so Kenny was related to Raheem because they shared the same grandmother. Tracy was related, and Mike was related to Raheem and Earl because they shared the same grandfather.
Yes.
And I just love how you did that, how they rallied around her. Like, this isn't gonna be it. Like, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like Ivory learned to respect Africa, because I don't think she saw any respect in her, because Africa didn't have nothing about herself. So when Africa started getting her own thing, I was even seeing Ivory mess with her a little bit more.
Right, because what Ivory said to him was, when she came here, she never used to say anything. With you, she tried to engage because she genuinely loved you. You know, and even she's not showing weakness. It's you that's showing the weakness, right? And so she's pushing them along, right? But Ivory is way more heartbroken than she lets on, right? She lost her husband, 2 of her daughters, and a grandson is murdered.
Right. And you almost did a great job of showing that. Like, sorry, go ahead.
So in the beginning chapters, we forget that. So I love when you made us realize, y'all realize what the fuck this woman just went through.
What she's been through.
So I appreciate you, because I'm already, and that's something that us as readers and people have to stop doing, is immediately taking one person's side. Because I'm your homegirl, fuck her too, this and this and this, and we don't even know what that woman is truly going through. You did such an amazing job humbling me.
because I needed to be humbled at that time.
Well,
No,
and you know what was important? Not only has she been through it, but so had Tracy and the other ones, right? Tracy's mother was murdered. So Earl was murdered. His father was murdered, right? So no, Tracy's mother OD'd. His father was murdered, right? And then Earl was murdered. So these are statistical. And I remember one year when I was a teenager, and there was a woman who was in the news. Her son hung in our neighborhood, and he was walking down the block with another young man, and the bullet ricocheted and killed both of them.
Oh my goodness.
This is very statistical. So what seems outrageous, right, doesn't. Because in New York, I remember a year. So I have a cousin that grew up in Brooklyn. Not one of the young men that she grew up with are alive. They're all dead. All of them. And so so when you look at these statistics, what happens is the reason why you forget them is because the people in New York back in that time were desensitized. And so were you as the reader.
Right.
As you move forward, you start to think a little bit more as the story continues to unfold. But these are statistics that are real in New York, right? And it's a sad state of affairs. My niece, her uncle was crossing the street and somebody shot and killed him. He was crossing the street 19. So these things happen. And so it, as you get older, what seems like, there was a guy I knew growing up. We were in middle school together. We didn't run in the same circles. By the time we were 20, he was shot and killed. And so when you're looking at Ivory's situation, she's learned how to cope with it. The husband was clearly street, right? And then you have Raheem. His real name is Malcolm. Tracy's middle name is Malcolm, and the little boy is Malcolm, and they're all named after the grandfather.
Right.
Realistic, right? And so I think with Ivory, and her situation, it wasn't a bitterness that Tracy perceived because he was young.
Right.
It was hurt. And she was doing her best. This is why she told Darlene, listen, I understand and I hate that they were fighting too. But at this point, we're all we have left. And you're not going to step your ass in the courtroom and speak against any one of these boys. And Darlene had to make change because she saw when he brought Lorraine to the house, she saw for herself what Mike was doing to Tracy.
Yes. I think you did such a great job of showing that when you got in Miss Ivory's head and she starts to list, like, I lost my daughter, both my daughters now. Now, like, you immediately start to soften for her. And as an adult, you're like, oh, she was raising him to be strong. Like, she was doing the best she could. And then even to get her feelings on Raheem and Kenny, like, she loved them.
Yeah, even saying like he looks more like him. She said that Tracy had his attitude, but he had his features. And it just hit me right now as you think about it. You know what, Raheem grandma, fuck you, bitch. You gonna name him Malcolm after my man?
Right. Because, and you know why? Because none of them were able to have boys. They all had girls.
She knew what she was doing. She knew. You know she was being petty.
But
church with a church hat on.
Right, but the truth is her daughter is who named him Raheem because it was her daughter's child, right? But in the end, the daughter never wanted to be bothered. As soon as the father died, she stopped speaking to all of them.
Yes, that's true. She sure did.
I think this was such a great way to show the interesting family dynamics that can happen. And then how it could go either way.
Right. It's up to you.
Right.
It was just a perfection. Perfection.
Well, it just
Well,
took
you know, go ahead.
Oh, it just again, I'm taking it back to Black. It just took me back to Black, like to when they were raising Otis. Like it was the same situation here because Raheem came with his baby, and now we're gonna have Mike's baby. Like it takes a village, and it definitely was like this is how it should be. So many people that I know, I do eyelash extensions. So, I'm talking to them. It's like an hour. And they'll be like, I don't even talk to my sister. They're like, I have nieces that I've never met. And I'm like, oh my God, does she live in Africa? And they're like, no, she lives down the street. Bitch, are you crazy? So it's just interesting, the family dynamics. Like you choose to want to be a part of that situation. And my one client that was telling me she don't talk to her sister no more, it's because they are their father, basically they share a father but have separate mothers. It's the same situation. So even though their mothers didn't want them together, they never even tried to have a relationship. So I love seeing how Raheem really kick it with all his cousins.
Right. And was attempting to be a good influence based on the mistakes he made.
Yes. Like I mean, you're unmatched. Like ain't nobody fucking with you. It's not.
That's all I could say. I have never read
You write
a page and not just been blown away.
And you still give us good, like you would think, right, that this is going to be only your mind, but then you give us some good, nasty too. I'm like, how she do?
Every element is always so well.
And so was it when he was in the restaurant explaining what it's like to have a big he tried to explain what they got to do.
Wesley and Jacoby was not playing. When Africa dropped down to her knees after the club, I promise you, I was like, whoa, as if I had something. Penis was being sucked, okay?
They did a fantastic job.
And Wesley
Yes,
was
they
not, I was
did.
like, is she humming? Oh my God.
My mother said I shocked her.
Your writing is just so thought-provoking and intellectual, but then it's still like gritty and real and just like I never not finish a chapter and be like, damn. And I gotta sit and let it marinate because it's just so much.
And sometimes I have to look up certain things, like certain words that were used. Like I just want to know how it went and does that make sense? Let me look and see what this even looks like. Like, I mean, it was awesome. The story was awesome. You picked fantastic narrators. I know against anybody else, but them two together, this was the first time I've ever heard them in a duet. Mind blowing.
Know what? They did a fabulous job, and Wesley is something else. But together, they really did it. And when the reader sees that poor Tracy, he's at this restaurant, he trying to explain what it is to have a big penis. I said to myself, okay, and so I'm walking around the room going, would I say this or would he say this? Would they say this or would a woman say this? Yeah. And so this is what you're doing the whole way. And it is something else. It really is. And I've been thinking to myself when my family reads, I'm like, Lord have mercy.
I would love to live in your brain. I don't know how you write such masterful pieces time and time again. Like I'm never not just in awe. And like these niggas,
how did you literally write him being like, you just a little bit. Like, I mean, it was equivalent to let me just put the tip in. Like,
well, it had to go with him being sexy. Well, that's for sure. And so he had to be sexy because he's standing up there with a stutter. So he had to do something.
When I promise you, I was sitting downstairs and I was like, well, I bet you Miss Patricia can take it.
But it's so funny when I was writing that scene, and I tell you, I really do research everything. I went to a forum where all the men had oversized penises and they were all talking about it. And I spent like maybe 5 days to my shame on this forum, like I'm a dude. Like, and my handle was Big John. You know, I'm joking, but you see my point. And so the forum was not what you think it was. It wasn't a racy forum. It was men in relationships talking about that people think that they get a lot of sex. And with the size of their penis, they really do not. Because ain't nobody feeling like getting a damn hysterectomy every time we have sex. So, one guy was talking about how, him and his wife schedule it and all kind of stuff and just being caring and so I was in there being nosy so I could get Tracy right. I tell you, and so my mother said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm researching men with big penises." My mother said, "Are you kidding me? Don't tell me this." I said, "Okay, well, you asked."
I'm telling you, it's always funny because when I'm like, I don't talk to Africa, but he did make it seem like we got to build to it.
A lot of people think
this is the issue. Like you accomplished that.
But then when you hear how he busts down poor Lorraine,
Right.
like damn,
Right.
after that.
But
Right.
for the first time, what I really appreciated about getting the scene, besides it like giving you the whole picture of Lorraine and the situation, you got to see him having relations versus him making love.
Yes.
Yes.
And it was powerful.
It was. And I'm going to tell you something. He revisited it just to try to put a handle on it. But in truth, he enjoyed himself.
Yeah.
And he considered it a cheat to even think about it that deeply.
He couldn't even go in the same room as that.
I could tell he liked it. When he was writing, I still wasn't done. And I had to spill again. I was like, okay,
they just came together for a more time.
Hey, Tracy, she made me like one, I'll tell you that.
Y'all wrong for that. I did
like,
the best
I read your stuff and I'm just like, what planet is she from? Like,
it's interesting to me because we all read Black romance, right? We read interracial romance. We read romance, right? We all read romance. But something about yours is in a filter. I can't explain it, whether it's Troy or if it's Tracy or if it's Albert and even my man Anthony. Don't play with Anthony. People be sleeping on Anthony, but don't sleep on Anthony. But it's not about that right now. It's in an actual filter. It comes off so, it almost makes you feel like you're better than everyone else as you're reading it because you're reading smart. Like, it's not just smut. You know what I mean? Like, we're intelligent when we're done with this. You know, like.
We're intelligent when we're done with this smut. Right. Yeah, I got you.
Regular. You know what I
mean? Right.
It's something about the way that you do it.
Now when we have to run errands, we're going on a ride along.
And don't let the kids come and tell me I'm having leisurely time. Okay. Black women deserve leisurely time. I've learned so much from every little thing. And even down to, I don't want my nigga to go to jail. But I be visiting his ass. Tracy said we don't need to be up down there being criminals, you know?
Well, even that was, I can't remember what sister it was, but that told Africa, like, be grateful he doesn't want you to come down there. Like, he was using, Trina, yes, he was using me. Like, just those things, when it's you, it's hard to see it for what it is. So Africa had all these people in her ear who loved her, trying to get her to see, but she wanted what she wanted. And, you know, that's just the human in us. But just those little powerful things that were so easy to jump over had such an impact for me.
Right. And again, when Tracy gets home, what he perceives, because it's all about perception, that she's grown close to Raheem. So he's watching her turn to Raheem, and you realize, and I'm showing you this because I'm getting ready to reveal that his perception is skewed the whole way. But because
Right.
we like him, because he's the protagonist, because he's sexy, we think everything he thinks is the truth. It's not.
Mhm. Yeah. And part 2 is when it starts to hit you that there's a little bit of stuff going on.
Right.
And it was
Absolutely.
I think it was everything. The only thing that I could say I wanted more of was more. I would have loved more. I would have loved to get
series.
No, this is not going to be a series.
Well,
Right
they
now,
don't
I
be
just
playing games, Miss Joan.
But then I appreciate you for at least letting us see that Raheem is working on his happily ever after. That
right.
you know,
All of
Kendra
them
is
are.
going.
That
Yeah,
right, because
everyone's finding their space.
Mike is with Lorraine. Raheem is with Monique. Tracy is with Africa. Ken is with Pat. And more importantly, this is not his baby, and he and Africa have moved on and are having a baby.
Right.
Yes. I do love the way you handled that. It was, I hate when there's no closure for all the many pieces. Like you do a weird version of multi-plot.
Yeah.
That I can't understand yet. I don't know.
I'm obsessed with it.
It's like multi-plot, but single plot, multi-point. I don't know what you're doing, but you do this thing.
And you do it
But
well.
you know what it is?
And you always
the technique with the multi-plot is really with the periphery characters. You're watching them churn. But whatever the author is telling you about the periphery characters is never really supposed to satisfy you. It's supposed to keep you where you're interested while you turn and look at the main character. And then when the main character is, for lack of a better term, switching costumes, you're now looking at the periphery characters and you're wanting more. But what happens is the story is not about them.
Yes, that's it. Jackpot Yahtzee. That's
you
it.
got it. You got it. And you do that well.
You do it very well.
You do that well.
That's why the whole Black series was so sustaining, because they got their moment.
It was so, but I mean, yeah. When we gonna get a kill?
Yeah, or
Okay, so right now I just finished a book called Sedition, and it takes place in 1925 in rural Georgia. And then I'm right now working on Butch and Jules' story, right? And that's going to be a novella. And then, I would like to try my hand at a gay romance, but I think people might fall out.
Listen, I won't. I actually really like to read it. I don't know why. I really like to read it. And I would like to read it the way you write it. You ain't gonna make a kill switch up on Monica, are you?
No. I'm saying the gay romance is a separate, book.
Okay, because I got hurt for a minute. I like that actually.
Yeah.
I did put a sample in the group for y'all to read. Remember about the young man? Yeah. About the young man who was sitting in the church.
No, I missed that one. I thought we were talking about books.
No, I didn't see that. Okay, so we'll get.
I'll look at that. I'm gonna be professional. I'm gonna look at that right after we
I put a teaser in. It takes place 1950, and so go look for it and see what you think. I'm gonna play around with it.
Okay, I highly support that. I do, because the little tease we got in the Black series, it was a tease. So I feel like I'm ready for the full printout of that.
So I'm ready. So where I just finished Sedition. Tina is getting ready to pick it up next week, and when she does, we'll be moving forward. And then from there, I will be doing I'll be stepping into a Keel story as soon as I finish. What I'm doing now is finishing. I'm gonna put some tie up Butch's novella or short, and then I'm going to put it out, and then I'm going to a Keel. So I'm hoping to have a Keel done by the end of the year.
Me too. Will these all be on audio?
Sedition will be out in the summer.
I can't wait. Okay. Will all of the books be on audio?
Yes.
Don't look at me, bitch. I had questions. Congratulations, Audio and Black being a year.
Oh yes, isn't that sweet? I mean, the time flew by. Audio and Black was a big deal, and so yeah, I'm shocked about it too. And
Like,
it came, the birthday rolled up on me. I was like, huh, we've been
yeah,
doing this
y'all
for
are
a
doing
year.
big things over there.
Y'all
We
are
love to
doing
go
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
website and see it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You know,
Audio and Black is a year, and I'm gonna be headed to New York at the end of the month because Alex is nominated for 2 Audis, so
I know,
I'll be
isn't
going
it
to
so
New York. Yeah,
exciting?
it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I come from an era where if you wanted to read romantic novels, there weren't very many
mm-hmm.
Black ones, if any. And
Right.
so it's a whatchamacallit. I read all types of books. I don't care who wrote it, but it's
Mhm.
nice to be able to choose a book that represents you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. Very true.
That is so exciting.
I'm so excited.
I'm just excited. Everything that I would, it's just, ain't it moving? Like,
Yes.
It's a
And
beautiful thing.
I'll be to the house party, so I'll be at the house party. Yeah.
Listen, I'm in the VIP section. Nikki almost wasn't in there, and it was gonna be real sad for me looking down at her while I'm up here in VIP.
Fortunately, that's not going to be the case. She had to do what she had to do because she'd have been looking stupid. Me and you having mimosas, chairs in, and Nikki sitting down there. But God is good. I can't stand her. I can't stand her. But oh my goodness.
We appreciate
Yes.
you for taking the time with us to really just get into this.
Because it was honestly, I could have finished it in a day, but book club book and all. It was
Right.
all consuming. It was completely engaging and endearing. Like there was nothing not to love.
What did you want us to get from this?
And the
story?
cover was gorgeous.
The cover was gorgeous.
Yes,
What
the
did
young
you
lady
want?
is gorgeous. Well,
What did
I
you
wanted
want
you
from
to,
readers?
I wanted readers to just, especially young readers, to revisit 1985 and see that while the time was different, the people weren't. We're all doing the same thing as young people. And so it was really a tribute to growing up in New York, 1985, and life is good. And so that's why, yeah, I'm excited.
Okay.
Well, you accomplished that. It
You
was
did.
a phenomenal read. We thank you.
Even down to the soaps. Like, that is something that I remember doing as a young girl with my mother. Like, and mind you, I was born in 1985. So the fact that Dixie was still on that bullshit back then, what? Like, for real? So, like, that was just so on. And I thank you. I felt like, again, I was born in that time. So I didn't know, I didn't do the things, I didn't know what was happening, but I felt like I got to experience my parents' lives through this story.
Wow.
I got to, I really did, because we have a big family. We're from Philadelphia originally. Like, I just felt like I was experiencing a lot of things. I was there, and I think you did that so effortlessly. Like, it just happened. Like, we woke up and we was in 1985, and I was like, what? Hold on. Not having these Levi's
Ran like someone who's truly from New York. You know what I mean? Like,
every
people who
street.
lived it, and then someone who was born, bred, and raised on the East Coast. Just the pocketbook. Just the way
the smell of chicken. Like, we live in Vegas, and you would never find a place where that you live upstairs, but there's a chicken house downstairs and there's a club right there.
The
They
chicken
don't do
joint,
that.
right. Absolutely. That's actually, those were real places that I spent some time. And I can't remember the name of the lounge. I renamed it, but we used to be in there, that's for sure. And you only had to go 2 doors to climb up the stairs and fall into bed.
And that's just, you have to have lived that to know that, because that's not happening here anyway for us.
Right.
So for us, it was so like, oh, that is so perfect.
Yeah.
Like, them chicken wings, like, I know I smell that chicken upstairs.
Right.
So I thank you.
I think it was Kansas fried chicken on the corner too. So that had, but we used to go in there and eat, so life was good. And I appreciate y'all having me.
We
Appreciate you taking time.
We really gotta do this again because I really, really need to get into the Black series. I don't know if you're aware, but I got cursed out at the end of December because we picked like our favorite audiobooks. And the Black series was most of my picks for every category.
And it was
That is
actually
what I applied for.
that if it wasn't on her list, it was on my list. And it was like back and forth. I was like, she got to give us some more books so we can get off Black.
It's
Right.
Right now, that's all we had.
I'm
Like,
hoping to put out at least 3 books this year. So one I'm just done, and I'm going to do the novella, and I'm hoping to get a Kill story done by the end of the year. And whenever y'all are ready, we will come back. I'll come back and hang out with y'all, because remember, I had just gotten the vaccination and got sick. I had gotten the
Yes.
vaccination that morning. And by the time we got on Zoom, I was sick. So whenever you're ready to revisit, I'll do it.
I felt like
with me.
such a cat.
Don't play with me because I can talk Black all day.
Oh
You know
my
how
goodness.
your Audible gives you a printout of like how many things that you've read? It literally says Joan Vassar is your favorite author. And it has to be because so much. Like, let me tell you who you love the most. And this is it. I listen to it so much. There's certain times when I'll be walking through the house and I'll just start talking as EJ, like, as a white man. Like, nowhere.
It really does.
Now if me and Nick are doing something, I'll be like, girl, they had to go. We are doing it big.
Right. So y'all just gotta let me know, and I'll be ready to come and chat y'all up and talk about the series.
Together, because this we need this. We really need this.
Yes. I'm gonna have to reread it. I got you.
Because
All
I
right.
got some
So
questions.
it can be fresh in my head.
I got
I
some
can
questions
reenact
about
it.
the
I've
fort.
listened to it that
Let me
many
tell you about the
times.
fort that I just can't even think about.
Oh, the way I cried through the fort.
And I'm so excited you about to give us some more historical situations because
Yes, this
no
book
one
takes
does
place.
it.
This book takes place rural Georgia, 1925, and it is during the Jim Crow era. So this is one of those books, and so I'm ready. This book should be up and running probably by June or early July.
If it comes in June, I know it was a birthday gift for me. I was telling about that. So I know you care about me the most. That's fine. Everybody, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but you and me know.
Okay.
And will that be, will you just have a single narrator for that, or do you kind of want to do a dual narrating situation?
So it'll probably be a single narrator for that. And I'm still trying to work that out. It will not be Jacoby. Look at y'all's faces. Y'all like, what the hell? Did you see her eyes? Her eyes. It was like Tom and Jerry, and then boom, 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 boom. All your eyes pop out and then pop back in. It will not be Jacoby. And so, but trust me, you will like this narrator.
Okay. I mean, you ain't stared me wrong yet, but geez, thank God you just hit it for me now, because I would have been like, Nikki, they done misspelled this man's name.
Right. So when y'all will see. Me and him are working it out, and when it is ready, you will see, and it will probably be out probably by I'm waiting for Tina, and then once me and Tina get through our part of just going through and trying to find missing words and all of that, once we get through that, then I'll go through and give it another look-see and all of that, and then we'll be ready to be up and running, and then the narrator will get it, and then once he gets it, and we'll go from there and go and we'll be able to have a date, but it will not be Jacoby. So y'all have to trust me.
I'm excited. I do have a question. I saw Black's new cover. Will the whole series get new covers? Because now I need the hardcover.
Yes.
So these are only collector's items. They're not going to go up on Amazon. So once all of the books are done, all of the covers, they'll be able to be bought as a set, and that should be here in a couple of weeks. And when that's done, I will only do it for a small amount of time, and then the covers will go away. These are just collector's items.
Okay,
Okay.
so stock the fort. Got it.
Because I like to
as
think
soon
that
as-
I'm better than everybody else.
And so as soon as she's working on book 3 now, and I believe book 3 will have Jeremiah and James on the cover.
Stop it.
And then we'll go to book 4 and then the fort. And then once we go through the fort, we'll go, which we'll call it. And every now and again, I think I'll finish the Unfortunate series, and then I may revisit and do a book 6 on the Black series. Who knows?
I mean, I'm telling you, there's certain chapters that I can name that I just have to go through, like bam, chapter 5 on Black. That's when Miss Anna finally give him a little bit of that thing, but she made him wait for it. And then Sunday, I'm sorry. There are just certain things.
Sunday.
No, he wasn't shit today. Shit. And oh my goodness, you are so on.
Yes,
And then
and we
I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm excited about everything. I know it's going to be fantastic.
we thank you.
And while we're here thanking you, thank you for giving Miss Abigail that moment with her and Dr. Schultz when she was showing Black that she's not just some little sweet mink thing. Homegirl knows how to do some shit. So thank you.
You know what? That book, when I was writing that book, I think it turned into a mystery, and I didn't mean for it to, and it just worked out. It just really worked out.
It did. It really did. Spike hurt me. I still never forget him.
Whenever y'all are ready, whatever book y'all want, I'm gonna come back because I still owe y'all one.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time with us. Again, I apologize for Nikki's mistake. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Y'all have a
apologize.
good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mhm.